Hello and welcome to the Professor Kev Show. I got my friend Diya with us from NativeScape Grass Company. Good afternoon, my friend. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm just living the dream. So start at the beginning. Tell us a little bit about why you started your company and what you do.
Well, I've always been a very environmental person, and I've always loved gardening. And when I started to do a lot of research into water use, because I knew that was a big problem where I live in Texas, as well as across the United States, I found out that lawns actually take up 60% of water usage in most urban cities, and that equates to almost 8 billion gallons of water nationally per year just used on lawns. So when I found this out, I thought, what can be done about it? So after research through places that I volunteered, such as the Blackland Prairie Raptor Center, I learned that native grasses did not take up as much water because they were naturally drought resistant. And then I found out that there was a blend of native grasses that only needs to be mowed 4 times per year, saves 90% of water, and needs absolutely no chemical weed killers or fertilizers. And after testing it some, I developed it into a product which could be sold.
So it only needs to be mowed 4 times a year?
Yes.
That's
I
a
mean,
It is though. I mean, we have a company that mows my lawn in the summertime every week. And
mhm,
by the time next Monday comes, it needs to be mowed again. So
mhm.
4 times a year, do we use how much less water?
90% less water.
That's amazing. How did you uncover this?
Well, I had been volunteering with this prairie group for a while now, about 3 years, and they have a large natural reserve back there. And so when I was looking into it, I was like, how are these grasses always growing? And you guys never irrigate these grasses. How are they looking fresh and how are they keeping green? And the volunteers there were telling me more about native grasses and how since they have very deep roots, they can hold water a lot better and they don't need to be watered as much. And then I started looking into different varieties of native grasses, specifically native to southern regions of America, because that's where we're centered in currently. And then I found out there were 3 types of native grass blends, and each of them had their own advantages. But when blended together as seeds, they would pose the certain benefits that I told you.
And it looks good too.
Yes, it does. They all three look very similar to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That-
So, mhm.
How do you convince people to use this instead of what they used to? Like, will they need to rip up their whole lawn and replace it?
Right now, our current market is to developer communities or larger areas that are starting to be built
Okay.
because the grass does grow significantly better when it started from basically just dirt. Because what we have right now in almost all of America are non-native grasses. They're actually pulled from tropical areas, mostly near China. If you've heard of St. Augustine, Bermuda grass, or zoysia, that's where these come from. And since they're from not native places to America, they're typically very aggressive. So my native grass won't necessarily compete with them. But right now, what we're doing, I guess, to convince people, well, the first thing I did is I entered the National Young Entrepreneurs Competition. And by getting through that, I got a lot of publicity as I earned second place, as well as a bunch of investment funds and some scholarship money as well. And through that, when I was there in New York participating in that competition, I the head of a developer group actually reached out to me and said he wanted to test my seeds. So they actually bought them, and this November they're going to use it for their new developer community down in Florida.
That's exciting.
Yes.
So last question, I like to call this crystal ball time. What's the
Mhm.
future goal for the company?
My goals for the company, our ultimate goal is to revolutionize the way people think and manage their lawns. And we hope to reduce water consumption and chemical usage across urban and suburban landscapes and contribute to a more sustainable society because that's really what our main goals and pillars and values of the company is. And then we hope to have our grass made in new parks. In the city where I live in Frisco, we're currently in a lot of development into new areas and new parks. And I'm currently having talks with the city about how we could implement my grass in these areas. So hopefully if we have it in a big project, maybe other cities could see as well, and that could provide a lot of good publicity.
So if people would like to learn more, what's the best way to reach out to you, my friend?
I do have a website called nativescapegc.com, and there's a contact form through there as well as all my projects, more about my company, more about why native grass is good, and kind of just the values that we like to teach. Because as a subset of my company, we also do a educational program. We go out to schools and stuff, and we explain why native grasses and native plants are so good for the environment. And so we have a bunch of those projects and other things on there as well. And you can also buy our products from that site.
Awesome. I appreciate you taking a few minutes to call into the show. And as always, thanks for
Thank
being.
you so much.
You're welcome.